How will the latest decisions or no decisions in Congress affect the economy and your business? I'm Jamie Gorman, the host of Be Better at Business TV, and my guest this morning is the managing partner of Vantage Economics, John Stewart.
Good morning, Jamie.
Happy Sequestration
Yes,
Day.
exactly.
It's March 1st.
Woohoo! Yes.
This morning we'll be talking about how the latest decisions, especially sequestration, will impact your business. So John, I know you've been following this pretty closely.
I have, yes.
Over the last
Yes.
several months
Yes,
now, probably.
Yes. Yeah.
The last time you were here, we talked about the fiscal cliff, and this was
Right.
kind of months out, sequestration.
Mm-hmm.
Bring us up to speed. What is sequestration?
Right.
What's the political climate?
Mm-hmm.
And, what kind of activities can we expect because of the decisions to let it go forward, I guess?
Yeah, right. So sequestration basically involves straight budget cuts.
Okay.
And this March 1st deadline is the result of Congress and the President kicking the can down the road January the 1st.
Okay, so there was supposed to be a decision on January 1st.
Right.
They kicked it to March 1st.
Right.
And is it across the board budget cuts, or is it more targeted to specific?
No, it's across the board, and that's
Okay.
part of the problem. It depends on what agency you're affiliated with,
Right.
but you can expect anywhere from about 7 to 10% cuts.
Okay.
And we actually even have to go back further, back to 2011, when Congress couldn't get their act together back then to negotiate a budget deal or a debt deal.
Okay.
And they basically came up with this crazy idea for straight across the board cuts, thinking that they'd never
Let it
pass.
go this
They'd
far.
never let it go this far, that
Right.
they would force them to come back to the bargaining table and negotiate something. So
Which it has forced them back, right?
it forced them back, but we're now at the point where it's so bad that Congress can't even rely on themselves.
Okay.
We can't rely on them very well either, it appears. So.
Right. So what kind of things do you expect to happen? Of course, last night the cuts didn't, or there wasn't
Right.
anything negotiated. There was two
Right.
bills, I think, in Senate. Neither of
Right.
them got passed. So it looks like sequestration will go into effect midnight tonight, correct?
That's correct, yeah. They're going to have sort of a show and tell meeting this afternoon at the White House. It's mostly for media. Nothing's really going to happen. I think most congressional members have gone back home for the weekend.
Okay.
What's hoped is that there's yet another looming deadline,
Okay.
March the 27th.
Right.
The government is basically under continuing resolution since October, and they have a
So
deadline.
continuing resolution is just that they didn't have a budget, so they passed something temporary to
That's
say,
right.
until we get a budget, we're going to operate
under
our
last
old-
year's
under our
budget.
old budget.
Right,
Okay,
that's
great.
exactly right. And so if they don't negotiate something by March 27 just for this 1 year,
Right.
then they're going to have the government's going to shut down,
Okay.
which happened under
We've
the
heard that
Gingrich
before,
and
right?
Clinton.
Yeah, mhm.
Right, that happened before, and there was a significant backlash to that. But what's hoped is that in the interim, they'll not only deal with the annual budget issue,
Right.
but they'll also start to negotiate in terms of the sequestration issues.
Okay.
Because it'll take pretty much a full month for much of the sequestration to start. Because
Right.
when you look at furloughs and things like that, government's required to give usually 15 to 30 days
Okay.
before they start making those cuts.
So they're not, midnight tonight, they're not going to start passing out pink slips. It's going to take
It
several
takes a
weeks
little while,
to
right.
kind of start getting that process
Right. Now,
going.
some of them have started the process early.
Okay.
So you'll start to see some of those effects, but really the more dramatic effects or the full surge of those effects,
Right.
it'll take about a month or so before you'll feel those.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So this morning I was listening to the radio, trying to do some last second research here on
Right.
what's going on.
Right.
And on WTOP radio, they had a guest on, and he's made the statement that it's not necessarily a hard decision to make, but it's hard politically.
Right.
Explain a little bit about the just the logical decision on budgeting versus the political impact of what decision is made.
Well, politically, and it is unfortunate that the politics of this has bled into what should be economic and financial decisions,
Okay.
Especially since it's the economy that's going to drive us out of our debt problems.
Explain that a little bit, what you mean by
Well,
the economy.
there's this discussion in terms of cutting expenses, and certainly we need to cut expenses, but
Right.
the real thing that's going to save us is revenue. And the way that we're going to do that isn't through necessarily increasing tax rates,
Right.
but it's by an economy that's growing at a faster pace. So your income dollars increase as a business, that also means that you pay more in tax.
Right. Okay.
Without the rate increase, and it just means that your revenue stream increasing means you're paying more revenue.
So kind of like what happened in the 90s, right? The
That's right.
90s,
That's right.
because personal income was up, investment income was up, business income was up, and so as a result, tax revenues were up.
Right.
Which that's one way to solve that gap, right, is to increase revenues, and so it wasn't a tax increase, but there were more taxes coming in.
Exactly. So more in line with what you were asking before in terms of a political decision. Unfortunately, Congress sees it as their job to get reelected.
Okay.
So the expectation, or at least the things that I'm hearing, is that what we're really looking at are debates in 2014 when we have the election cycle coming up.
Right.
Of course, a lot of Republicans were voted in because people were simply fed up with the spending.
Yes.
But it's important to consider that the timing of the cuts. I don't think that there's anyone out there that really disagrees that government is too big.
Right.
I think that it has to deal with the timing of the cuts and the types of cuts and the ways in which those cuts are required of Congress.
Right.
So there's been some discussion. So for this year, over 10 years, they're looking at cutting 1.2 trillion.
Right.
This year, it'd be 85 billion, but of course that was as of March the 1st. So it's actually going to be, numbers look at around a net number of about 44, 45 billion.
Okay.
What's been suggested is that keep that number, require agencies to make certain percentage cuts, but allow them the flexibility to be able to determine what programs they do in fact cut.
Okay. Okay, good. All right. Well, let's see. It's Be Better Business TV. We are a live show, and because of that, we are able to take questions from our audience. So if you have a question, you can chat that in. Just go on our site and use the chat functionality, and you can chat in your questions on sequestration or the economy or anything that we have John here, and we think he can answer. So, Alyssa, do we have any questions now?
Will sequestration cause another recession?
Oh, so that's a good question. We just came out of a recession, and one of the big things with the fiscal cliff that we talked about was how that could cause us to go back into recession.
Right.
Is sequestration something that could have such an impact that it causes us to go back into recession?
Well, I think that nationally, it more than likely will not.
Okay.
Back at the fiscal cliff with the whole package of items that was being debated at that time,
Right.
yes, that probably would have sent us over a cliff, or into recession rather. But this alone probably won't do that.
Okay.
It will certainly be, though, a headwind, which is unfortunate. My forecast for growth in 2013 was about 2.2%. I was hedging myself a little bit on the downside because of some of these issues. I think that the timing is unfortunate because I think that if this wouldn't have happened and they would have been able to negotiate a deal, looking 5 years from now, looking back at 2013, we probably would have been saying 2013 was the year that the economy got its legs,
Right.
really started to grow, and people started to feel better about their financial and economic prospects.
Okay.
So it's a little unfortunate in terms of the timing. It'll be a headwind. We got some data yesterday on a regional manufacturing report where people were anecdotally providing information saying that because of the uncertainty as to what was going on in the DC,
Right.
they were not scaling up like they normally would be. Because we're seeing the economy improve, but it could be better if things weren't so uncertain.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for being here, John.
My pleasure.
I'm here with John Stewart, the managing partner for Vantage Economics, and would you like to take a second and just share a little bit about Vantage Economics?
Sure. Well, Vantage Economics, I'm an economic consultant, which pretty much means I can be your data guru. I do a lot of forecasting, look at sales analysis, kind of connect what's happening with your business to the overall economy.
Okay.
If you're a transportation company, we can look at oil prices. If you're a manufacturing firm, we can look at other commodity prices. We can look at geographic differences, where you might target your marketing dollars. There's a broad spectrum of things that I can help with in terms of leveraging different strategies. Folks can reach me on the web at www.vantageeconomics.com. There's a blog there that folks can take a look at and get a little review of some of the economic activity and how it relates to their business. And they can always feel free to contact me through the website.
Great. Well, thanks, John.
Sure.
And I like having John on here because what he really does is he helps people make better decisions. And I'm Jamie Gorman, the host of Be Better Business TV, but I'm also the CEO of Sigma Business Management. And better business means better decisions, and better decisions create better results. At Sigma Business Management, we help people be better at business so they can get those better decisions and better results as well. Thank you today for joining us, and I thank John for being our guest, and we'll see you next week.